Scoop-doo, blah-ba-dee-blue, yeah, yeah, yeah. Scoop-dee, oh yeah!
Okay. All right. You're no headphones, right?
No headphones. If that's okay.
Of course it's okay. Imagine. Make you put
How
on
about
headphones.
the mic?
What's that? Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Larry,
Yes, sir.
you're the man. I want to.
There's almost something dental about the position. You know, it's like you don't really have a lot of flexibility. You know what I mean?
With that table not there.
Yeah, if I could spit. If I needed to spit.
Right.
If we were doing a thing, that's where I would spit probably.
Just if you're gonna spit, do it in the cup.
I got a cup. Yeah, that's true. Don't worry. This is a class operation.
Yeah. There's something about setting everything up that really could take out of the creative.
Yeah.
Not that I'm needing to, build you a statue right now.
Correct.
But I want to be where I was right when you walked in.
Right.
And we're talking
Socks.
socks.
We'll get back into it. First of all, there is a lot of anxiety in setting this shit up.
Mm-hmm.
There is. I mean, you want it to go right, and you are a person that wants it to go right. So you're going to have anxiety about it. That's okay. It's like natural. You want it to be good. Your intentions are good. So and if your anxiety gets a little out of control, this is the time of year.
This is the time of year for it to get out of control.
Exactly.
This is the time of year where it's supposed to be.
That's right. Things are bad now.
Larry, so this is my 8 nights of TYSO. And I get gifts for everybody.
Right.
And I normally give them at the end.
Yeah.
But I was thinking that perhaps we could use one of these gifts.
Sure.
So I'd like to start this potentially blurry 2-shot off with a gift.
You mean some Hanukkah guilt?
No, but I did get some Hanukkah guilt for my girlfriend right before
I'll
this.
bet.
And,
Oh, yeah.
no. Betty, shout out to you. It's just, you have to say these things. You're the best. You're the best.
You remind me with your electric menorah that, I grew up in Trump Village in Brooklyn, and Trump Village was 7 buildings, 23 stories each. And this was in the mid to late 60s. And everybody in every building, in the 7 buildings, in the 23 stories, in the 22 apartments on each floor, was pretty much Jewish. So on Hanukkah, it was also the mid-'60s where people were like sort of abandoning the old traditions and stuff. So everybody in Trump Village had electric menorahs. And when you would walk home from school in the wintertime, it would already be dark. The entire building, the 23 stories, would be lit up by electric menorahs in everybody's window.
Do you feel that it's cheating?
Not at all, no.
To not
I feel
have a
like
candle?
it's cheating. I feel like the Shabbos is actually cheating. I think that, I went to Israel, in this movie Religulous, we visited a Shabbos cheating institute in Jerusalem, an institute of rabbis devoted to figuring out loopholes in the Shabbos laws so that you could, for instance, if you go to Cedar Sinai on Shabbos, the elevator stops at every floor, so you don't have to press any buttons. Is that okay? It's hard to say.
Oh, because you're not supposed to do any work on Shabbos.
It's a way to have a loophole in the Shabbos law so you could still go up and down in an elevator without pressing the button. Somehow that excuse makes it different.
I feel that calling that a cheat is to not acknowledge that it was originally made possibly up because of the time it was in. And I feel an analogous example would be when the right to bear arms legislation came out.
Correct.
That was not considering the technology of automatic weapons in the future.
Right.
So when Moses or whoever, I mean, I don't know anything about anything, but whoever decided, on Fridays we don't push buttons, there were no elevators at the time. So I think we do have to evolve this.
Well, to me, we have to evolve to the point of just dropping it. It doesn't work. I mean, you're right. Those laws were invented before any kind of modern life was invented. So there's no connection between those things. So all the Shabbos laws are absurd. They relate to a time that is no longer relevant to us. In the same way that all of these things need to be reinterpreted, like the Constitution. I agree with you. I mean, there's no way the Founding Fathers could have imagined Trump. They didn't imagine someone like Trump, so they were thinking, a monarch, King George is going to try to come back, whatever it was very, very sort of related to the events that they had just experienced. They couldn't possibly imagine how time would march on. We interviewed somebody else, a religious, a Vatican priest, and they were the smartest guys that we talked to, the Vatican priests. They were all PhDs, and they all know better. They all know this is all nonsense. And I remember the Vatican priest saying to us, how can religion have any science when science wasn't even invented? The concept of science isn't invented to at least 500 years after the Bible is written. So there is no science in the Bible. All those numbers, all the way people try to apply science to the Bible is absurd. So the Shabbos rules, instead of trying to get around them and find loopholes, drop them. They're ridiculous. They don't serve any purpose, or follow them. But don't try to get around them. That's ridiculous.
That's an interesting observation that science wasn't around yet. It's almost as if that questions come up and you need to find answers. So religion was maybe like the beginning of this idea of science, of trying to troubleshoot and figure what things are. And then when it's proven otherwise, you held on to those ideas for so long, it's hard to say, no, the Earth isn't the center of the universe.
But there is a perverse break that takes place, because as soon as
I got to cut you off there, because I don't know what you mean by like a gross.
Yeah, like
break?
For instance, the idea of like science being religion being the beginning of science, and there being some connection and there being some evolution in that direction is fought and stopped by the realization by religious leaders that they had an enormous amount of power, and soon enough it became about power and not about ration or like, for instance, these Vatican priests, the Pope himself, they believe in evolution. They don't believe in 6,000 years ago in the garden. They know that's just a story. They understand it's just a story. But if the Pope comes out on his balcony, thank you. If the Pope I'm usually pretty good with that.
Usually isn't always.
You were afraid I was going to knock it over.
I'm always afraid of something to knock over.
Okay, I understand.
And who am I going to pray to? Einstein?
I am gesticulating a little bit, so that could happen. But I don't remember what I was talking about now. But thank you.
The Vatican priests don't believe that the Earth started 6,000 years ago.
But Pope Francis came out on the balcony and said, "Listen, ladies and gentlemen, evolution is the true way. God is just a myth. Jesus wasn't born on December 25th. Of course, he wasn't resurrected. That's absurd." Then Christianity would fall apart, and all that power would be dissipated. And that's more important than the truth, at this point.
With that being said, I'd like to wish you a Merry Christmas.
Thank you very much.
And I definitely want to get into this.
Go ahead. I see it says Larry. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's not a coincidence.
No.
And for the people that aren't watching on
Larry
YouTube,
Wilmore on the show, and he canceled. And
he said no, but I had already bought the stocking.
No already. All right. So first of all, we have the purity of the unclouded moon.
Yeah, I thought that was a cool looking set there.
What is this?
Open it up. It's like a book, like in Shawshank Redemption, where you can keep your rock hammer.
Is this how you do it, like on a talk show?
Yeah, but that camera might be completely out of focus, so use camera A.
Hey, Rick, this is, thank you very much.
Isn't that cool?
This is way more than cool. This is really super nice.
And I was wondering if maybe we could try that out real quick.
Yes, absolutely. Let's use it. Yeah, and I got a T-shirt here as well, right?
I have my smoking tray.
Fantastic. So what should we do with this part? Just take the ashtray out?
Yeah, I was gonna.
Are these joints?
Yeah, the pre-rolls.
My God. Yeah. Here, light it up, man.
Yeah, and it comes with a little ashtray and a matching
That is so
lighter.
nice of you, Rick. Thank you. And look at this. This is a great looking T-shirt. Also,
Thanks, man.
I love it.
Listen, when I've been given.
I love the graphic.
Me too. Thank you. Shout out to Nate for putting it up, for making that for me.
Yeah, very nice job, Nate.
I am.
I'll wear this T-shirt.
Will you really?
Oh yeah.
I've been giving people T-shirts, and I want to say to you guys, you don't have to wear it. It's just like a fun little thing, gesture I want to give.
Right.
So I know you weren't writing on the show when Serenity Now came out.
Right, but I have to say that I was very responsible, not solely responsible, but very responsible for Jerry Stiller playing George's father.
Tell me about that.
All right.
But light that joint up, baby, because I need it.
Yeah. So originally, Larry wrote an episode that had George's father in it, and we just started trying to cast someone. And I watched a movie. We were searching for the right person. Very difficult to find, who should play George's father? Who would really get the most out of playing that role? And I happened one night to be watching a movie on PBS with Robin Williams called Seize the Day. And it was based on a Saul Bellow novella. And Robin Williams is the star, and his next door neighbor is played by Jerry Stiller, who plays like a mad, crazy doctor. It's insane. He steals the movie from Robin Williams. It's a great movie, by the way, and I highly recommend it. But Jerry Stiller steals the movie from Robin Williams. He's so hilariously funny and so original that it just kind of popped through the screen. And I came in the next day to work to Jerry and Larry, and I said, hey, man, you wouldn't believe what I saw last night. Jerry Stiller from Stiller and Mara, which was the comedy team that he was in with his wife, Ann Mara.
A stage show? I don't know that team.
Stiller and Mara were Jerry Stiller and Ann Mara. They were Ben Stiller's parents.
Right.
And they were a comedy team. Very successful in the 60s.
Yeah, I knew they did comedy, and I didn't know what that meant. What is that? What kind of comedy are they doing?
Stand-up comedy, but as a duo. They would come out and they would play like two people on a first date or an old married couple, and they would do like bits as these kind of characters going to a movie.
I want to see if I could find a clip. If so, I'm going to put it in.
You'll definitely be able to find the clip.
Would you like to send them? Would you like to send us to the clip, or would you like to come back from the clip?
Let's come back.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, whenever fellas and girls...
Okay, we're back from the clip. How was it?
I honestly... It was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
I'm telling you, they were very enjoyable, very successful, and very sweet people. Anyway, they loved the idea of Jerry Stiller. They immediately gravitated to that idea. We immediately inquired about Jerry Stiller, and as it turned out, Jerry Stiller was busy at the time. He was doing a play. I was about to do a play on Broadway, and he was not available. And don't forget, Seinfeld was still not... It was not the cachet that it was afterwards,
What season did he come in?
This is like second or third, or again, I always get confused about the seasons too.
I'm going to need to make sure we go over the tray on that.
Mm-hmm. You want me to pass you the whole tray when I pass it to you too?
Everything about the tray and the joint are connected at the hip.
Okay, here we go. I dropped it in the ashtray. I'm going to put this down here.
Sure.
All right. So anyway, Jerry Stiller is about to be in this play, and he cannot commit to doing a TV show. So we do a regular casting session, and indeed, a very fine actor comes in named John Randolph, who had been a blacklisted actor in the 50s. If you saw his face, you would know him. He's in a million things, a million movies and TV shows.
We'll put up a picture here.
Yeah, he's a very black and white actor. You see him in a lot of black and white stuff. And he had been blacklisted, actually, in the 50s.
What for?
For being like a communist sympathizer, or, the kind of stuff that people were getting blacklisted for in the 50s.
I don't want to make you keep that on the tray on your lap. When you're done, I'll just put it on the floor.
Okay, don't worry about it. This is how I live, basically.
With the tray?
The TV's in front of me. I have the tray, and I'm all good to go. I'm a simple man.
If I didn't have trays, I'd be living in a pigsty. I feel the tray is
exactly
is the bubble that
That's
keeps
what it was
me clean.
invented for. It's a civilized invention.
Please, when you want to take another hit, let me know. I'm going to pull that back up.
Okay, great, thanks. So we hired this man, John Randolph, to play George's father. And he certainly did a serviceable job. He was a very fine actor.
Shout out to John Randolph.
Yeah. He was not the funniest guy, but he committed to the role and did a serviceable job. And but afterwards, we all felt like we missed something here by not having somebody like Jerry Stiller in this part.
After you filmed him in one episode.
Yes, he was in maybe even 2 or 3 before finally Jerry Stiller's play opened on Broadway and closed on Broadway almost immediately. In fact, I think it only lasted like 1 performance, but I'm not 100% sure about that. It did not last long. Suddenly he was available, and Larry got very excited about having Jerry play the father, but we've already shot these other episodes. So we hired Jerry to play the father, Jerry Stiller to play the father going forward. And now that happens in a lot of TV shows.
Sure.
You switch
Fresh
a
Prince,
mom,
Family
a dad,
Matters.
a supporting, right. You switch supporting players all the time, and people will generally accept it. A different Darren, you know the old stories with Bewitched and all that.
Yeah. Love Bewitched.
Yeah. So we went on with Jerry Stiller playing the father. But Larry being the kind of person he is, and I'm sure you'll relate to this, he's so obsessive and so compulsive. He couldn't live with a TV series in toto that had Jerry Stiller playing George's father for all episodes except for these 2 or 3. He couldn't live with that, with having the wrong guy playing George's father. And so he went back, and I think he did it at his own expense. And he
No.
Well, maybe not. But I'm sure he threatened to do it at his own
millions
expense.
of dollars.
Well, it's not millions of dollars. No. I
Doesn't
don't
an
think it is.
episode? I guess you're just reshooting some.
You're only reshooting a couple
Right.
of things. He's not even the dominant person in the episode, really.
Right.
So they were able to do it, and they went back and they reshot those scenes. And they inserted Jerry Stiller into the scenes with
Right.
John Randolph. So John Randolph has completely disappeared.
Oh, that's such cool information.
So I'm sure the family of John Randolph is very happy about that. But I wonder if he still gets residuals, even though he's cut out of the show. That's
No.
an interesting question.
No.
No more.
No. When you're not in it.
Well, he shot it, though.
I say this to you coming from a person who's done commercials,
Right.
Where either they didn't air, which I guess isn't the point, or I didn't make it in the commercial. I don't
Right.
get. You have to be.
Right.
You have to still be part of it
Right. Well, but
because he's not in the credits.
But he's a little different. He made it in.
But he's not in the credits. Oh, how did he make it in?
He was in those first couple of episodes were broadcast.
Oh,
Yeah. He was.
Wait a minute, and then he went back and switched it just for the syndicated version?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
In the 3rd season, he thought, when this is syndicated, I can't have this, even though this was the original.
I don't think he thought in the 3rd season that he would be able to do that yet. He still thought the show would get canceled. But by the time the show was successful, he knew he'd never be able to live with the reality.
So
of
you're
having
telling me
this,
that this went on more
jarring-
seasons?
What's that?
Before he reshot it, it went on for additional seasons? He went back...
Not with that actor. Only Jerry Stiller. Jerry Stiller, that actor played the role 2 or 3 times in the 2nd or 3rd season. And then after that, he was replaced by Jerry Stiller, who played him through the rest of the series.
Right.
But Larry didn't like the idea that those shows existed with the wrong actor.
At what point did he feel that way?
From the very beginning. As soon as Jerry Stiller became the dad, he's just thinking, I'm unhappy that Jerry Stiller is the dad now, but we have these episodes without him.
And this goes on for a year, 2 years?
Years.
And years later, he goes back and reshoots
Yes.
it. That's crazy. Oh, then maybe at his cost. I understand now.
Right.
I thought they were just doing a reshoot.
Right, because nobody else, because I'm sure that everybody else involved who had any influence over that decision would say, "Oh, don't worry about it."
Of course.
but that's not Larry.
I love that.
Yeah.
So he reshot it. So Jerry Stiller, when he did it, has already been playing the dad for seasons.
For years, yeah.
And he went back and did it. So when so my DVD box set, it's going to be him now.
I don't know the answer to that. I would say yes, but I would say if it's a DVD box set, they could have it would be cool to have the other ones also.
Yeah.
So they should have everything. It should be complete. But I don't know the answer to that. I haven't looked at it.
There's an episode of the pilot of Full House. Bob Saget wasn't the main guy, and I saw online it leaked at some point where you could see the full original pilot. Have you seen that before?
No.
It's just interesting.
I don't think I've ever really seen
an episode of Full House?
Yeah.
Well, you'll be the first
I'm too
guest.
old. I have my kids maybe watched it, but really, it would be almost like creepy for me to be watching Full House. I was an adult, you know.
Yeah, I guess.
But it happens all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, Julia wasn't in the Seinfeld pilot.
I know.
You know, so all these things.
But you never see it as a fan of a show.
Yeah.
You never see the stuff that never made it.
Well, now you do, because everything is about, it's an economic choice now to release everything possible from every filmed experience. So eventually everything comes out. It just takes time. Like, look at the Beatles, you know, the way they keep releasing music, you know. Everything is released and over-released and re-released, and there's director's cuts and there's final cuts and there's X-rated versions. And, you know, everything is about trying to continue to squeeze revenue out of a product. That's the
Larry,
bottom line.
I have and have had the best idea by squeezing revenue out of other IP.
Yeah.
The best idea. I've been sitting on it for years, and I wrote a version of something, and I have to read. So I have three things I'm thinking in my head, and I may be wrong, and maybe two, but I think there's three.
Okay.
There's how much I want to pitch this to you right now.
Okay.
Okay. Because it's just on its own, that would be a great thing.
Yeah.
But then it's out there.
Right.
Then it's out there, so I can't do that. That's right. So there are three. So one is I want to pitch it to you
Yes.
because it's great.
Yeah.
Okay. Two is if I pitch it to you, it's out there. So, you know, how many more times can I say this?
Right.
And the third version is, but what if you said, let's do it?
Right.
And there's no way I could tell it to you off the camera.
Right. You have to roll the dice right now. You've got to roll.
So
the
what
dice.
happens is you either say no, and then it gets done elsewhere, and I'm Serenity now, or you say yes, and then we spend 3 months doing something, and chances are it's not going to work.
Well, also, you know, I could say yes, and somebody could still steal the idea too, because if we're talking about it on camera.
So here's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Depending on your answer, I'm going to see how much I'm bleeping of what I'm going to tell you.
Okay, great.
So just know this. As you're watching, if there's no bleeps, it's because Larry said yes, and we have to do it today.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'll bleep some stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, I apologize to people listening if I keep this in. I'm already high, so this might be like 2 minutes of just bars and tone. So fast forward. I'll put a little red bar up on YouTube so
Right.
you know
That's
when
nice.
that ends, so you could just skip to that part.
I like that.
All right. So you know that Shawshank Redemption was...
Never saw it.
but you really have you never seen it?
No.
Really?
You could quiz me on the movies that I haven't seen, but also I've seen a lot of movies that nobody else has seen.
I believe that.
It balances out.
Well, Shawshank Redemption is...
I know the story of Shawshank.
It was originally a Stephen Hawking novel.
I say I don't have to see movies like that because everybody says, "Did you see it? Oh, well, this is great. This is great." And so it's like I've seen the movie in my head, which is fantastic.
So you don't need to experience something. You just need to know something was good, and you get it out.
I don't need to know that it was good. I'll form my own opinion without even knowing that. So it doesn't really matter.
All right, let me give you a little history on Shawshank Redemption. Which, by the way...
Is this part of the
Fantastic.
pitch?
Yeah.
Or is this just a setup to the pitch?
What's the difference?
I guess there is none.
Okay, it's like, is this
Is there
part of the
difference in
joint, or is
anything?
this the joint? It's like,
You're right. There's no difference in
So-
anything.
Yeah. So what's the fucking point?
Right. Well, okay, man. I mean, I
Oh,
didn't
we
bring it
forgot
up.
to say the prayer.
I didn't. I didn't forget to say any prayer.
Do you find, even though I'm filming this on the 7th night of Hanukkah, and this is coming out on time,
Right.
there's I was thinking, if I did film this earlier, is it wrong to say the prayer when it's not the day? You know what I'm saying? Like to do the
This is another one of those kind of Shabbos cheating things. It's like, what difference does it make, really? None. It
Right.
makes no difference. If you were to say God is an idiot right here, is it going to make any difference?
then how
No.
come you said you didn't forget to pray? It seems like you're praying all the time.
I am praying that things end. That's what I'm praying. But other than that, I don't pray to any deity.
Why'd you go from entity to deity? Explain the difference in 10 seconds or less.
It was the pot.
Okay.
I think that it's it's okay to pray. I'm okay with anything. You could do whatever you want, but I personally don't have I'm not part of that belief system, I suppose.
For the ritual, for the tradition,
Yeah.
would you mind saying the Hanukkah prayer with me?
Yeah, probably. I don't think I would. You know, the thing is, here's the thing. I went to Hebrew school. I was very conversant. I think we talked about this.
Yeah, on the last podcast, you grew up more Jewish than people would realize.
I was the one at the Seder who did the 4 questions because I knew them by heart and I could rip them off, you know. But the answers to the questions always sucked. And that's what turned me off to Judaism, was the questions were fascinating, but they were never good answers, and the rabbis didn't want to hear about it. So it was very shut down. The dialogue, was extremely shut down. So I was turned off to that. So these kind of rituals and traditions, they have a kind of only a tenuous meaning to me at all. They're nostalgic to me to some degree. But other than nostalgia of it, they don't really have much significance.
I don't know if I feel... I believe I feel that way about everything.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, if I didn't like the nostalgia, the feeling of it, I don't think I would still be doing it.
I don't like to indulge. I'm much older than you are, remember. So for me, I don't like to indulge in nostalgia. I try to be very much in the moment, in the present, and not, because it's very easy to fall into that complacency of nostalgia, of thinking about things that were better because they happened already, fond memories, all those things which are, I think, for artists, are kind of dangerous to indulge in. So I try not to give myself the pleasure of nostalgia. I deprive myself of the pleasure of nostalgia.
Who said that?
I just...
I know. But it sounds like I deprive myself the pleasure of nostalgia.
Well, I realized I finally turned it into a good aphorism there, so I wanted to make it really clear.
What are the cons of falling into the nostalgia for an artist?
I don't think you wind up pushing forward anymore. You wind up falling back on your formulas. And I've always been very allergic to formulas. Once a code is cracked on something, I kind of start to lose interest in it. I like the figuring out how it works, and then once it works, somebody else can maintain it, and I'm looking for the next thing to crack.
Larry, one of my obstacles as a stand-up comic is the ability to build on stuff that I've created.
Yes.
Because my mentality, and I think it's to a fault, it's the wrong mentality to have for a stand-up comedian, is I did that, it worked. And then I have a hard time doing it. It's not, I did it.
I could so relate to what you're saying. When I was a young man, I did stand-up comedy. And one of my major issues was I couldn't stand the idea of doing the same material twice. Mm-hmm. I hated doing the same stuff over and over again. And because of that, I bailed on a lot of material. I put a lot of pressure on myself. It helped me as a writer, but it really hurt me as a stand-up. And what I learned from guys like Jerry Seinfeld, or even Richard Pryor, or David Letterman, or Jay Leno, or any of the great comedians, was that they made that seem spontaneous. When they did that same hunk night after night, it sounded like the first time they were doing it. They were able to create the illusion of spontaneity. And that is the key to great stand-up, is making it sound fresh for every audience, even though, just like playing your greatest hits, you have to make it sound like it's the first time you're playing it for the audience to feel that sincerity and authenticity. If they feel you just walking through it, then they're going to recognize that and respond in kind.
When repeating material, and I've gotten a lot better at this because I've forced myself to be uncomfortable for a while, and I'm still not great at it. Because when repeating material, the problem for me is either it's not funny anymore, which sometimes happens, or I feel like they're going to find out that I'm lying. It's like I have a pet peeve when a comedian says, so I was talking to my sister the other day, and I'm thinking, it wasn't the other day.
Right.
You don't have to make it the other day.
Right.
Just you were talking to your sister. Go on.
Why don't you do that on stage? Why don't you deconstruct that moment on stage? See, that's very funny.
Yeah, one time. And then we heard this already.
But there are a lot of stand-ups who use that kind of, for lack of a better word, shtick of deconstructing the setups. I was in Milwaukee last week. Well, not really. I was in Milwaukee a year ago, but just to make the joke work, we're going to be in Milwaukee. You've heard
that's built into the way I communicate anyway.
Yeah,
so I do know that shtick, but that's not enough.
But that is an honest way of pulling the pulling the mask off and sharing the truth. That's an honest exchange with the audience.
Absolutely, but then once that becomes an act, it's baptized in this thing that you were talking about anyway. So then I'm telling bits that's deconstructing bits that I haven't even set up yet because I'm lost in this world of everyone knows what I'm thinking.
Yeah, it makes it hard to be a stand-up. It's true. You see, stand-up, you are kind of pressing against the the limitations of stand-up. It's an interesting dilemma that you have, because you need to sort of create a kind of an act.
Yeah, you need to be able to lie.
You need to be able to also have it be well-paced over the course of like a half hour, 45 minutes, an hour. Like that alone, the stagecraft of that alone.
Dude, I could pace in my sleep. The pace. Pace I have.
Well, so what's the problem then?
The problem is after I've done something enough times,
You just get sick of it.
here's the psychology of it. I
Okay.
can't tell you that I'm doing that as a defensive act. What's happening in my head is when I'm performing, and it's stand-up is different than this
Yes.
acting. I could act and do the same lines over and over again.
Yes.
But by design, stand-up is me telling you something. It
Yes.
isn't me it is a performance, but it's me telling you a performance then.
Yes.
And I need to be in the audience with you. And after 2, 3, 4, 10, whatever times, when I already know everything that's about to happen, I'm losing one small thing, which is I'm not watching me anymore. And once I'm not watching me, I'm not present. I'm thinking about the other things I'm watching and thinking
Right.
about and how to make a turn at the last second. But so one of the most common joke structures is just a left turn. Da, 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 da. There it is, right?
Right.
So the left turn has become so obvious to me
Right.
that I feel like it's no long making a left turn isn't a punchline if I say, "All right, go up ahead and then make a left." That's just going the way you're supposed to go.
Right.
So then for a while I thought the funny joke was going straight when people thought you were going to turn left.
Right.
Knock knock.
Who's there?
Oh, you've heard this already? Like not giving them the thing that they think.
Yes.
And then it becomes it almost feels pretentious sometimes. It feels like I'm better than these jokes. And the truth is, no, I'm not good enough to tell these jokes. I could only tell you what I'm thinking. And what I'm thinking is what I'm thinking, not something I thought 2 weeks ago. I don't want to tell you what I thought 2 weeks ago. I can't tell you what I thought 2 weeks ago.
Well,
and
maybe-
then for stand-up
maybe-
comedy, it's not good.
Well, it sounds like what you're doing now. Again, I'm not part of the stand-up comedy world anymore, but I know, like at the turn of the century, in the early 2000s, I used to perform sometimes at this place, Uncabaret, and there was a lot of alternative spaces. I don't know if that's still true.
Yes,
And
tons.
but to me, you going up on stage and just saying what you just were saying, deconstructing your process, deconstructing your ability to even tell a joke, that's who you are. That's a presentation that's valid, that's unique, that's original, that's Rick Glassman that nobody else could do. Everybody could do the left turn, but few people could talk about the absurdity and the pretension of wanting to do the left turn. And that's an interesting place.
I think
Of comedy,
I'm
I think.
hysterical. I go up. I do. I go up on stage. I'm hysterical.
Yes.
The problem is, I'm not just wanting to do live shows in which I would come out and see me. I'm so happy with the act.
Yeah.
But to put that into a special where all right, you should have removed this. It's not tight.
Right.
I
It's
can't
not.
be tight.
Right.
I could be funny.
Right.
I could do this. I could have.
Right.
Oh, that's right. They normally go left, and that's But it's not. I'm going down. I'm going down a negative place right now.
Well-
I'm going down a negative place.
But this is talking about something that's very important to you also. So it doesn't have to be purely negative either.
I often wonder.
It does seem like you're striving for something that may not be the right thing for you to achieve. You know what I mean? It's like if a stand-up special is your goal and therefore there are certain rules to that stand-up special, you have to kind of, to some degree, adhere to those rules. And those rules may be simply a tight 45 minutes, gleaned from whatever ramblings your normal show might be. And if you feel you can't do that and still present yourself honestly, then you shouldn't even be trying to do a stand-up special.
all
Or
I heard
not
was
doing it-
whatever ramblings. I was kidding.
Well, that's the main thing also.
yeah,
But
the name of the special.
Yeah, my ramblings. Yeah. So you have to, I think you have to think about, it's like you don't want to do this live. It's like you want to have you're
Yeah.
a person that likes to have a little control over your content. Why not do a stand-up special or a comedy special that isn't about performing in front of an audience? So you could explore some of these more unraveled thoughts.
I had an
know?
idea of the special being Rick Glassman kills at a Bed Bath & Beyond.
Right.
I was just, it was on fire.
Right.
But then logistically, it just felt like I'm going to need to have somebody come along and sign off with everybody, and you can't really control that. And do I want to be limited to just Bed Beyond? And then would Bed Beyond sign off? Maybe they'll sponsor. And then all these things, and it just feels like obstacles. But I did think about doing that, but that's just a man on the street thing.
But that's an external idea. What, like, for instance, you didn't say what you would actually say at Bed Bath Beyond.
Yeah, because I know it's because I can't. You go up to people. You say things like, you go like, "Excuse me, miss, I couldn't help but notice those that you're beautiful."
Yeah. Who's going to give you a special doing that? Who's going to give you a special standing in Bed Bath Beyond, asking, just commenting that the girls look pretty?
Larry, I wasn't serious. That's not what I was going to be saying.
All right. So what are you? I'm asking you seriously.
Yes. So I could tell you what I would be doing, not the script of it.
Okay. So tell me that.
Right. So I am walking through Bed Bath & Beyond as if this is my first time at Bed Bath & Beyond.
Okay.
I can't believe everything I'm seeing here. I am a rug guy. I am a tray guy. This is a store dedicated to rugs and trays. The energy is happy. The energy is positive. Think Elf from Elf.
Okay. Never saw it, but go ahead.
Of course not. Maybe you read the book. So I am now.
I know what an elf is.
Will Ferrell's Elf. He's just everything he's seeing.
I know.
The world's best cup of coffee.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a beautiful, fun energy. So I am now going through the store, doing monologues of how excited I am, talking about how much I need stuff and why I need these things, and it's great, while having beats in between of people coming by and talking to them and asking them why they bought this thing and how good this is, and basically just being my mom, but like newer.
Right.
So.
But that's very different than, and you think you could sustain that for, I mean, are there enough departments in Bed Bath & Beyond to
That's what I'm saying. I don't know if Bed Bath & Beyond is enough.
Right.
But a lot,
all right, so it doesn't,
but a lot of it
honestly,
is by myself.
It's not a fully developed idea.
No, I scrapped it 20 minutes after I thought of it.
All right.
I'm just saying, not doing it in front of an audience. I once had this idea to do it in Bed Bath & Beyond, but it wasn't going to work.
But see, what is it? It seems like you're ready to adjust and adapt it to whatever your environment is instead of it coming from inside. Like, what do you want to talk about? That's the key to your stand-up special.
That's the problem. What I want to talk about right now...
Where you do it, you could do it in Bed Bath Beyond or the Improv. Of course.
The problem... We're on the same page, Larry. The problem is I don't know what I want to talk about now is not what I'm going to want to talk about when I have a stomach ache or after I talk to my dad, because I only want to talk about what I want to talk about. But then I got to go up on stage and I got to talk about, like, fucking, the girls at Bed Bath & Beyond sure are pretty, and I'm not thinking it anymore.
Right. Okay, well, then you can't do stand-up. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I've been saying this for years, but my parents keep saying, no, you're great.
Well, you probably are very super funny, but if you can't harness it in the medium that's called for, you're going to be forever frustrated, unfulfilled, unhappy.
I have to say, I've been going down a little bit of a self-deprecating run with you for fun.
Right.
These are true feelings I have, but a bit of it is hyperbole.
Right. Of course.
The reason it's taken me as long...
My response is as well.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Because I do the same stuff. I have bits.
We're playing, right? Aren't we having we're doing a show.
I was ready to cry.
Right.
There was no play.
That's good.
It's great.
Crying is playing too.
Who said that?
Some psychopath who doesn't actually cry. I watch a lot of these true crime murder type shows, and at a certain point, the cold-blooded murderer, the psychopath, the sociopath who's incapable of empathy, tries to show grief over what's happened, and they try to cry, and you watch them, they rub their eyes, and they do a whole thing, and no tears ever emerge. And that's when you know someone is insane. So be careful of that. I'm just warning you for the future.
Let me warn you.
That's why I wear these glasses, because I can't actually cry.
I want to tell you that I appreciate those thoughts.
You're welcome.
But I want to show you how quickly I could show you grief.
I didn't say you were a sociopath.
Well,
I believe you could have grief. Are you going to cry now? I could cry now also. I mean, it's.
Let's have a cry off.
I'm not going to cry now, but I'm saying there are a lot of things that make me cry in the world, and that's healthy. If you could cry, great. You're a healthy person, I think. I'm talking about people who are not in touch with. They don't have that switch in their brain.
I was just wanting to show you my acting chops, not that I'm a sociopath or not.
I think you've been doing a good job all through the whole show of showing me your acting chops.
Thank you.
It's the real you that's hard.
Because my real name's David.
Right. It's the
God,
real.
That's the joke I
the
chose.
real you is the hard thing to kind of get a handle on.
Oh, I can. No, the real me. The real me is the easiest thing to tap into.
That's what you think, but you see, you're just a social construct.
No.
You have to start breaking it down, man. The self is an illusion. You have to start
I know what you're
embracing
trying
that.
to say.
You're too tied to your ego right now. You have to let go. Then your stand-up will all come together. It'll coalesce. Once you let go, it'll come together.
What if I were to tell you that I did have answers for you? And what if I were to tell you that those answers are in writing? And what if I were to tell you a third thing, Larry? What if I were to say that written word is to your left on the floor under the other stuff?
Really?
I have another gift for you.
Okay. This blue one?
Yeah.
Wow. This is a weighty tome.
Yeah. A weighty tome?
A weighty tome. That's a heavy book.
Yeah, I know.
Well, you said it like you didn't know. I insult a lot of people by doing stuff like that. Correcting them when they don't really need it.
With the inflection?
I try to avoid the inflection.
Inflection.
Was I giving an inflection?
Inflection.
Inflection. Was I giving an inflection?
Was I giving an inflection?
Oh, well, you made it. It was another one of those hyperbolic moments, where you might be serious, but you might not, or you might be both serious and not serious.
Seriousness is just based on intent, which is based on a perception, which isn't real to begin with.
I agree.
The only thing that's serious is how expensive that gift was for you.
First of all, I can't believe that you are spent. Oh my God!
What do you think?
This book, I know. First of all, you notice how natural I just show right to the camera.
Yeah, but you're showing it to the possibly blurry one.
I know it's possibly wrong, and there.
Look,
is that good? Yeah, that's a good one right there. Okay, good. Now you have it for sure.
Of course.
Hindsight and all the things I can't see in front of me.
Isn't that so relevant?
If I open this book, it's a real book. It's not like a joke thing, like with blank pages or something.
No.
Oh my God, it's a real book.
This is exactly what we were talking about.
This is a Justin Timberlake book of philosophy.
Yeah, JTBOF. BOP. I spelled philosophy wrong, but I'm good with acronyms.
Yeah, no, that was good. That was close enough. Wow, it looks like a very serious, weighty tome.
Yeah.
Not just in heft, but in substance.
Yeah.
All right, nicely done.
Do you think I could have you back on and we could talk about that book the entire time?
Well, that would mean I have to read it.
Do you not like it? Do you already have it?
It's not that I don't like it, and I definitely don't have it. I just don't want to promise that in some restricted amount of time that I'm going to be expected to sit down and read that book and come back on the show and talk about it. I don't want to commit to that. That's the part.
Larry,
that's the part that I'm holding back.
I'm in Cleveland. Shout out to Cleveland.
Right
Shout
now?
out to being in Cleveland.
How do you do? So this is a whole hologram thing that we're doing?
I'm just speaking to you from the mindset if I were still in Ohio.
Okay.
I'm just like, I'm wearing a sweater. It's a little colder. I'm talking to you more with my hands like I'm with my family.
Sure.
Coincidentally, when I was in Cleveland, I found these $40 Justin Timberlake books on sale for $5.
Well, thank you.
And I got one for all of my guests.
So you mean did you transport them yourself back from Cleveland?
I had to bring back 2 check suitcases, both over 50 pounds, for these gifts.
Wow.
Now, can I tell you the real gift? It's my mother's gift of gab. She called the airline before I even went to the airport to explain the situation. Not only did I not have to pay an overweight luggage bag fee, which would have been $100 for both, $200,
Right.
I didn't even have to pay for a second $40 bag.
Wow.
I walked up. $220 because it would have been part of it. I said, "Oh, my mom called. It's in the notes." They looked. "Oh, I'm so sorry. You're right." Waved it. Got on. Books. No cost.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Great. My mom is able to, whenever I want to change tickets, she could call and get rid of the change fee. And I take her up. Some things I feel I could do, but I'm like, "Mom, will you call and get it done?"
Right.
She's great with that stuff.
Yeah, that's cool.
I had a quote because I don't drink, and I would say this all in high school. You see me any second in high school, you'd be surprised if I wasn't saying it in that moment, okay? Which was, you booze, you lose, you schmooze, you win. Right. We'll be right back with a word from our sponsor. If you're looking for just the right flooring, you need choices. And at Marshall Carpet One, you'll certainly find them. And we're back. That's my father's area rug store, Marshall Rug Gallery in Cleveland, Ohio.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And it's still there?
Yeah. It's still there. Like, it's been there for...
Well, I mean, that sounds like something that probably, something from your childhood and could have closed In the meantime,
it's what he does
your
now.
parents retired and they live in Florida now or whatever it is. And
That's a fair assumption.
your parents are here, actually.
No, they visit here a lot, but they still live in Cleveland.
They still live in Cleveland.
We're waiting.
And they deal with that brutal winter in Cleveland even now, and they're okay with that.
Well, yeah. I mean, you have to, right?
No.
That's where your life is.
Well, right. If their life is there, then I
Yeah.
understand it. Sure.
They do want to move
Their
here.
son is here.
Both, and my brother. Shout out to my brother.
So their son and your brother are here.
Yeah.
2 sons.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's something. And what do they do? Oh, they're still running the rug
My
gallery.
mom's selling perfume. My dad's selling area
Right,
rugs. And when I say
right.
selling area rugs, they basically sell themselves. If you walk into the store, you see the options that they have. They also, the customer service, the family vibe, they have good snacks.
Right. They have area rugs. They have runners. They have large scale,
All
small,
flooring. It's carpet and tile as well.
Barbarian yarn and the Persian style and even Afghani possibly sometimes.
You'd be a perfect person to ask because I had my dad and my cousin Teddy on. I'm going to cut to a clip of him saying Afghani.
Sure.
Yeah, so I don't know how these motherfuckers
They're
are
making
doing.
it. They're
Maybe
compressing
they got
it.
some Afghanis in the back room. Who the fuck knows, right?
I finished the fucking show.
Here we go. So we
I gotta interrupt just
course.
because
All right.
just because I don't know if I'm supposed to. If the way you said Afghanis just sounded shitty, and I wanted to say. I'm not for the way you said it. I don't know why. I'm just protecting my ass here.
Listen, as far as I'm concerned, Afghanis have fucking beautiful dogs. Okay.
Okay, you don't have to validate. Just make the hash.
Hold on. Let me.
That's what you're saying. They have beautiful dogs.
I love the Afghans. Before you were born, I had Afghan dog. all right?
You love Afghan dogs.
I like Afghani rugs too.
I love Afghanistan. I love the whole concept of Afghanistan.
What's the concept that you love?
Fucking hats. I like those fucking
All right,
hats.
make the weed.
I like the fucking hats.
So there's something about the way he says Afghani instead of Afghanistanian or whatever
Yeah.
that to me feels, and you would know this better, there's something that sounds racist about
Right.
Afghani.
I said Afghani too.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Do you know what I'm talking about? Am I wrong?
You could try Afghanistani if you want, but I feel like you're forcing the issue there.
And how come you added style after Pakistan but not Afghani? You said it's a Pakistan style, but it's definitely the Afghani.
Well, in my mind, this I could be incorrect about, but I feel I don't have a true sense in my mind of a Pakistani style, so I'm kind of giving it a broader label.
So the Pakistani styles.
Right, exactly. Whereas an Afghani rug,
You could picture.
an Afghan rug or an Afghan, you know what that is right off the bat. How about that? There it is, right there. So, and that's an Afghan.
I don't know if I'd see an Afghani rug and think to myself, I know that's Afghani.
Right. Well, that's because you don't know much about rugs.
Okay, we'll be right back with another clip from Marshall Rug Gallery. So make the right choice and visit Marshall Carpet One and Rug Gallery. And we promise, with more than 50 years as a family-owned business, we've got you covered.
It's exhausting to be in show business. Go right ahead.
Tell me a truth of that about what's being exhausting about being in show business.
Because the show part of it is it takes a lot of energy.
Yeah.
Like we're not just hanging out; we're also doing a show. You know what I mean? Everything. I go to lunch with somebody. I'm not just eating lunch. I'm also doing a show.
I know.
Everything is a fucking show.
Is that annoying
and
to some of your friends?
I get home and I just don't exist. I have to kind of just collapse and not exist for a few hours and replenish, so I can go out and do another show. My shows are not on stage. My shows are in life.
Is there anybody in your life that that isn't on that frequency?
Well, what I'm trying to tell you is that there is no self. So,
So maybe you don't know.
the self is a construct anyway. So what people are getting is the real me, as far as I can tell.
I agree that self is a construct, but just because it's a construct doesn't mean it hasn't been constructed. So there is some truth to it. There is an existence in it.
Yes.
Right?
Sure.
So
If you want there to be, that's up to you.
I don't think it is up to me. Because
Okay.
here, if a tree falls in the woods, does anybody hear it? That would offer that there isn't anybody to even hear it.
Right.
It's not if the sound exists. Is there a person to hear the sound? When I was 6 years old, I asked my father,
You have to be careful about taking those things too literally. But go right ahead.
how else would I take it?
Well, you have to. It's open. All these things, like the Bible, like everything, is open to interpretation.
The Bible is definitely open to interpretation and interpretation.
Interpretation is actually probably better.
Listen, man, you said whatever the thing was with an E instead of a D that I can't remember. All right,
I've made some mistakes. I admit it.
So the interpretative standard deviation of a Bible versus whether or not something makes a sound is different. This is more philosophical as opposed to what did they mean by it.
What, you don't think the Bible is philosophical at this point?
Not as much as a tree falling.
All right, okay, man, fine. That's up to you.
I want to knock that tree over,
right,
and then mute the sound when it hits it.
Well, we should leave the apartment and put this on a string, and then once we're outside, pull it and see what happens.
Yeah,
you probably start a fire, but nobody will hear it.
I thought to myself that if this tree caught on fire, because it's a very cheap, non-flammable resistant tree,
this is definitely dangerous. But go ahead.
I unplug it as soon as we're done.
Okay, yeah, I would imagine you would.
But I did think that if it caught on fire, how fun it would be with the guest, where it's on fire, I run in and get my fire extinguisher, which, by the way, always have a fire extinguisher in the house. And I come back and I do it, and then we do a bleep bars and tone and come back sitting on the couch just continuing our conversation with smoke.
Maybe
put
blackened. Yeah, that would be funny. That's actually very funny.
Now check this out. I had that thought on the second episode, on the second night of Hanukkah with my guest Jackie Tone. Okay, and I just talked about it with her. I think it was Jackie. I talked about that with her. So here I am again thinking about that thing.
Yeah. And
I was able to tell it to you as if it were the first time, because this is something that I'm thinking. It didn't feel like a lie. But if I had to come in here and say at some point when we acknowledge the tree, I got to do that fire bit, that would be challenging. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. But you're talking about this level of spontaneity that you need to be the best version of yourself.
Yes.
Another thing that I learned about stand-up by being a failed stand-up was that guys like Jerry or Robin Williams or whoever it was that we admire as stand-ups, George Carlin, they were the best versions of themselves on stage. Lots of guys are funny at lunch. You know, lots of guys are funny to hang out with. Hilarious, in fact, ridiculously funny. But harnessing whatever that is and finding a version of it on stage, a canned version that still feels spontaneous, that still feels it's you, that is a challenge. And that's the key to good stand-up, is that you are seeing the best version of these guys on stage.
Right.
You have a lot to offer. You're a very eclectic mind. And so harnessing that for you is a great challenge.
I've often questioned, as much as I love stand-up and want to always do it, if stand-up is the thing.
Right.
Like it's helped me write things, it helps me create this performance, but is that the ultimate way to go? And I want it to be. I'm not sold on it. I'm okay if it's not, but I'm still working toward it as if it were.
Can I ask you a question? Why do you not do some of your stand-up pieces to the camera in your house like you do the podcast and just put that out as well? You know, this way you wouldn't have to, it would be more, I think you would be able to maintain your spontaneity while still having some kind of control and order, and you wouldn't be sort of dependent on the dynamic with the live audience so much.
I love that, and I would love to start trying some solo episodes like that.
Yeah.
That being said, I thrive off of the energy, and it isn't for me. And I think the problem is the expectation of a certain amount of laughs, or the certain type of laughs, or at least it being funny. And I love to go on stage and play with the energy in the room,
right,
which is the thing I can control. The energy is always different based on the comedian before me, based on what's happened in the world that day, based on the venue, based on the temperature, based on my first 1 minute, based on how they think of me, based on how I think of me, whatever the energy is. And it's as much as every individual person has their own wants, thoughts, and appreciations, there is one thing that is constant, and it is that. It's blanketed. They don't get to choose it. It's there, whether they see it or not.
Right.
So my act is playing with that energy, where I need a venue, I need an audience, I need a situation, I need people to think something, so I could either heighten that or contextualize it differently.
Well, to me, that leaves you with two choices.
Mm-hmm.
There are comedians, great comedians, someone like Richard Belzer, for instance, who I worked with a lot in the 80s. he was the greatest person at picking up the vibe in the room. He would come out on stage. He had some material. He wasn't really all that into his material. So he really thrived off the vibe in the room and dealing and interacting with people. That was almost his entire act, like a Don Rickles might do, you know. But there are other comedians who could harness that kind of energy in the room, but they still have a hunk of material to kind of weave
what it has
in
to
and
be.
out of. Yeah. And that requires a little more discipline, which I think you have.
I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm doing it well. It feels like a step backwards, but I do think that's what it has to be. You have to have, if you can make anything float, make something pretty float.
Right.
And like, it's not just about putting anything out there. Like, I want to have these great things.
But let yourself get it wrong until you get it right, man.
I am. I want to tell you that for 2 years, for almost 2 years now, I do this, and at least I make myself start with the same 5 minutes and work at least one other thing I've done before, and then have room to play. And it's just giving me like my cheat days.
Yes,
I've been doing that.
That sounds healthy.
It's made stand up less fun, which I think you have to think of it as work.
Right.
I know Jerry said that. He was walking down the street and he saw these construction workers working these, I'm paraphrasing, 9 to 5s or whatever. And he's like, that's what I have to be doing too. And like, it's not just going up on stage and you sit down, you craft it, and everybody does it different. But
well, it's like Major League Baseball in a way. Like Jerry is a super, super talented player. But there's a lot of super talented
Seinfeld's
players.
a good baseball player?
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying I'm using the metaphor in stand-up, okay? He's one of the great players of stand-up, okay? But there's a lot of great players in stand-up. What separates the Hall of Fame guys is their dedication and their hard work. Jerry Seinfeld is the hardest working comedian I've ever seen. He is completely committed to his craft. He is dedicated. He has the discipline to never veer from that, and that's what separates him from a lot of great comedians, because he's on it all the time. Other comedians, like I said, fall back on their formulas, or they don't push forward, or they wind up doing the same thing, or they wind up losing interest in stand-up and kind of getting into it on a more half-assed, once-in-a-while basis. But he's somebody who has honed the craft, and that's important to him, and that's what kind of keeps him fresh.
Yeah,
ultimately.
It's interesting that even repeating the same thing, the opposite end of the spectrum is not creating and doing new things.
Right.
And finding a line between that spontaneity, creating new stuff, and also workshopping and building this thing.
Yeah.
And it's obviously hard. I mean, stand-up is hard.
Right.
But I doing it 11 plus years, but only forcing myself to do this part of the craft for a couple years.
Right.
I have a skill set that is stronger than my efficiency.
Yeah.
And I'm trying, and it's so hard.
Do you do paying gigs?
Yeah.
So, like, what's the last paying gig you did?
I did DC. Didn't get paid.
But you were supposed to get paid for that.
No, I got paid. I'm saying like the level of touring that my peers are doing versus me is there are people they're making their living from it.
Sure.
And me, I'm making some good money from it, but I couldn't survive off of it.
Right.
And the difference is they've been building an act for 10 years.
Sure.
While I've been working on a skill set, and I've only been building an act for 2.
So you're being booked like in DC, that's a club that you're being booked into with other people.
Yeah, I do 10 weekends a year outside of LA.
Right.
Where I do like a Thursday through Saturday, or sometimes a Wednesday through Saturday. 5 shows.
And how do those go?
They go well.
Good.
Great.
So that's going to give you a lot of encouragement.
It confuses me because forever I always thought I'm going to be funny one day. I know I'm funny. I'll be a good at stand-up one day. And it took a long time. And then I finally got like, oh, I'm a good stand-up comedian. I'm funny. Mm-hmm. And then I realized, oh, I'm just doing, there's nothing, I'm just doing, this isn't, I'm just talking. This podcast is funny, but like, I'm not going to, who gives a shit? You're not going to watch it twice. So I wanted to have something that you would watch twice.
Right.
And that's been trying to curate, instead of just doing an act where there's funny stuff in it and I'm figuring stuff out and it's people are enjoying themselves, and they are. And people, I've noticed that people want to come out and see me again, but I don't feel special in it. It doesn't feel special. Not that I'm so special, but yeah, if you're going to do a craft, it needs to be special.
Right.
And yeah, I feel like I'm special, but I feel like, you got to say that. You got to say I'm not me, but
No, I know that, first of all, if you're in an artistic pursuit, the fear of it not being special or not being good enough, whatever, those are very natural parts of that process. Failing all these negative things that you feel as a result of pushing through your artistic restrictions are the very things that will give you the liberation on the other side of it. It will set you on the path that you're supposed to go on. And you just have to be open to that. That's all.
I have to be open. I have to make sure that fear doesn't keep me just practicing this spontaneous skill set because, I'm good at this, but the truth is I'm scared to do this.
And show business wants to label you. It wants to label everybody. So if you're perceived as X, you'll get stuck as X, and you won't be able to be anything else.
It's already happened to me. It's already happened with the Comedy Store in particular, where they think of me as this weird guy that sometimes hits a grand slam, a lot of times strikes out with few in between.
Right.
And I've been spending years developing, relatively speaking, an act, more so than before, and I'm consistent now, but it's still I'm the weirdo. And that's fine. I am still the weirdo, but I'm good at it now.
Right.
And I think I have to find a way of being great at it. I know I have to find a way of being great at it. And just, we've talked about this for a long time. And actually, I loved it. And I don't know. Thank you so much.
Of course.
But
happy to help.
Man, I'm sorry if we talked about stand-up too long.
I didn't know we had segments that we had to cover for a certain amount of time.
Yeah, we do. I have to do the How Do You Spell Hanukkah segment.
Okay.
So let's just get that out of the way. Do you know how do you spell Hanukkah?
I probably would use you see, I would normally use the CH, but in this day and age, it seems again pointless. The whole ch, my wife is even just annoyed by the sound. So I now if I had to write Hanukkah, I probably would write H.
And then
the rest of it is Hanukkah.
I think it's 2 Ks.
It might be 2 Ks and 1 N.
And Hanukkah, but if you put the C, you get rid of one of the Ks.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we got that segment out.
Yeah, good. Okay. So
I feel the C before the H in Hanukkah is the same thing as saying I'm well instead of I'm good. It's I get it's proper.
Right.
But who are you trying to impress?
Well, the CH is really a kind of a desperate attempt to bring that sound into English, which is kind of absurd, like l'chaim. There's a lot of CH words, actually, but...
like a cher.
Right, but most people just turn it into a K anyway,
Yeah, I do find that...
K, it's
the Goyish add the CH because they feel like they want to be authentic. Oh, it's Hanukkah. Is that correct?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. There's that version, and then there's the version of people who just don't even bother trying with the CH.
Right.
Yeah.
Because, as you said, what's the point?
What is the point?
And then that was really, I only had one segment. It was Spell That, so I guess we have time for everything.
Yeah, that worked out very well. Yeah, good.
I was just worried that we couldn't get that spelling
the Hanukkah
thing out.
spelling thing. Yeah. Are you doing that with all your guests? Is that the?
I have given every guest the Justin Timberlake book.
You may want to rethink.
I know, right? This is what happens when I repeat material. Yeah, I'm doing the Spell Hanukkah bit.
Yeah. I mean, how many different answers are you going to get to that?
It's more about having a little jingle and having a little now it's time for the.
It's the bump. It's a little bumper.
Yes.
Yeah. Got it.
As was giving the gift at the end, just a little
love it all.
A little through line.
Your gifts are very generous, by the way. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because even though you only spent $5 on the book, that you carried it
and had my mom call.
Yeah, you had your mom do special things for you, and that was very nice, very generous. Thank your mom for me as well.
Maybe.
Why? Why not?
I have a problem.
Why wouldn't you?
I have a problem when people tell me to tell your mom I say hello. I think to myself, if I say yes, I'm going to have to, and what if I forget and it's going to cause me anxiety? So what I say is the truth. Maybe.
Right. Okay. That's
if
fair,
I'm
fair
talking
enough.
to my mom and I remember that, of course I will.
Right. If you forget, I wouldn't be upset about that, though. I understand that people forget things like that. And if you remember and you're thinking about, you're talking about the book, you go, oh, by the way, I had Larry Charles on the show. He wanted to thank you for your help in getting him the book.
That I could say yes to because it had the built-in if you remember.
Right.
And this problem with lying is directly related to this thing of repeating material, and I'm not making a joke with that.
I understand that. You're trying to be sincere. You're trying to be real. You're trying to be honest, and it's a challenge sometimes in certain situations, like in polite social contract situations. Most people will say, yeah, of course I'll tell my mom thank you from you, but you're right. The truth is you may forget. You may not see your mom for 2 weeks. It's going to be the last thing on your mind to say thank you on my behalf. I understand that too.
Wait, fuck. What did you just say?
Talking about your mom.
What did you say? What about? No. About the polite, right? So
Right, polite.
the things where you're supposed to be polite.
Yeah.
I've learned in the past few years that my comedy has developed from a place of not feeling safe in those moments, and I had to come up with bits to say, maybe like it's the truth, but I had to find funny ways of communicating my, I guess. The easy way of saying is neuroses, but just
Right.
my obstacles.
I have a good catchphrase for you.
Go on.
Try. Kinahura.
Yeah.
That could work for you in any situation because you're constantly trying to sort of quantify
Right.
what you're talking about or contextualize what you're talking about. So if you add a kinahura to things,
You're saying just add kind of her at the end to make whatever I say.
Yeah.
Like, hey,
Yeah.
I don't like it. I don't like that you came in here without washing your hands. Kind of horror.
Kinahura,
So
right,
it's like,
exactly.
yeah, sure.
that's a
little sheet.
That gives you a little. It's an out. It's a great catchphrase, and then you get a T-shirt. You have a whole thing going on. I can see that really working.
When you come back and we just talk about the Justin Timberlake book, I will be sure to have a Kanahura T-shirt for both of
Yeah,
us.
come on, that'll be great.
Larry, we do got to end this, and I want to end it with
Thank
with a question for you that you might not have an answer to based on you talking about tradition.
Okay.
But is there any memory that you have as a kid or last year, this year, of a holiday moment that is that you'd be willing to share? That makes that, because the holidays, I don't believe in a lot of things, and this all is nostalgic, but there is something about this that feels so good to me.
Yeah.
I put in this Christmas tree as a set. I normally don't have a Christmas tree. I fucking love walking into my living room with this Christmas tree.
Sure.
There's something nice about it, and I think that's based on the way I associated the holidays as a kid.
Well, when I was a young child, my father would take me. We again, as I said, lived in Trump Village, predominantly Jewish neighborhood. So Christmas was a very Gentile, Goyish thing. It was about getting off from school. It was about that kind of stuff. And my father would take me into the city when I was really young, and we would go to Rockefeller Center. We would watch the people ice skating. And then his friend's father was the head of the musicians union in New York at that time. So he would get us in the side door at Radio City Music Hall for the Christmas shows. And so we would go.
And your dad loved showbiz. I remember you told me last time.
My father loved showbiz. We would go to Radio City. We'd watch the Christmas movie, which was usually a big comedy like The Out of Towners, with Jack Lemmon, or New Leaf with Walter Matthau and Elaine May. Great big comedies there. Used to have great comedies there. And then they would do the Christmas show. But my father hated Christmas, hated the pageantry, the gentilism of it. So we'd watch the movie, and then as soon as the Rockettes would come out and start doing the big Christmas pageant, he would grab me, and we'd be the only, you might as well put yarmulkes, like strimals, is that what they're called? You might as well put beards on us with black coats, because we were the only people walking out while the Rockettes were doing the Christmas pageants. It's like the two Jews were walking out, he holding me by my hand against my will, and he would drag me out of the place just as soon as the Christmas thing started. So that is a Christmas memory. Having this really warm, it's like the Rockefeller Center and the big tree. It was really, really nice in New York, in Manhattan around that time, Christmas. And then we would have this kind of weird, we can't be exposed to those ideas, So that's one memory. I have a lot of memories of, I remember when I was even still young at that time and trying to, meet Santa Claus. There was a lot of things that were just sort of like, I would be obsessed with it on TV.
You made yourself. You were more Jewish than your parents when you.
I was more
growing
Jewish
up.
than my parents, but I was also more curious about Gentiles than my parents also.
And that's your curiosity with Santa Claus.
Santa Claus, Christmas, It's a Wonderful Life, Christmas Carol. I was obsessed with the Christmas Carol as a kid. I loved the one particular version with Alistair Sim from the 50s, a black and white version, very creepy, like a horror movie. And I'd watch that over and over and over again also. So I loved the March of the Wooden Soldiers, because that was always on Christmas time with Laurel and Hardy. So I have a lot of very fond alone memories of that time of the year, but my family didn't really celebrate, so there's nothing like that.
Larry, I'm going to end this podcast, and then after I'm going to keep it rolling, and I'm going to pitch you that idea with an easy out that if you say no to it,
I'm going to cut.
Or I might still just so you guys know what happened, bleep a little bit.
Can you make it a quick pitch?
I could do it in under a minute.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Beautiful.
But before I do that, let me say thank you so much Larry Charles, and thank you so much. And you guys have yourself a happy holidays. Hanukkah.
Scoot doo, blabbity blue, scoop dee. Oh yeah.
Okay, so here it is.
Yes.
So Shawshank Redemption was originally a book. I don't know if you know this. It was a... They loved the characters. It ended up... There it is. And you take... And you have... Of this.
Right.
And the audience is...
Well, I think there are two different ideas. The is very interesting also.
Two different ways of executing it.
Right, right. The doing it like I mean, I can see that on Comedy Central very easily. You definitely need to get it funded.
All right, you want to do it with me?
I would be interested in directing that. I would, but I wouldn't say it's my first priority. Only because I have a few other things that are.
This your first priority.
If you can put together something though that is real and tangible that could be pitched, and that you still wanted to do it, and it's developed, I think that's a possibility. Of course.
So now I have to keep it in, but you're going to have minutes of bleeping.
Well, the thing is, for you as just a form of discipline, I think it would be a good idea to write it up. You know, and just to test yourself as far as that goes. Here's an idea, take it through to the end.
Yep.
And see if you're still excited by the end, because that's a problem that happens when you're writing. Is you lose enthusiasm at various stages. You know, you start thinking it's shit. You start thinking it's a waste of time.
All right. Well, I'm excited about it. I know it's not your main priority, but I'm gonna put something together.
Make it yours.
Yeah. I'll make it one of them.
Yeah.
I got a lot of editing to do.
You
with
got a
this
lot of
stuff.
shit to do.
I'm snapping my fingers way too much
It's
during
the holiday
these bits.
season. You got mini episodes.
Come on, they're not so many. It's just I had to say mini, and now ours was a regular length one.
There you go. You see,
dude, I love when you're here. I love that you came here.
Thank you.
I'm such a fan of yours, and this is such a pleasure, man.
My
Sincerely,
pleasure.
I
I
appreciate
wouldn't
it,
have come if I didn't enjoy your company.
Thanks,
I love
dude.
it. My pleasure.
Oh yeah.